So let's get into option number 3, who we took. And that's Malik Nabers, of course. There he is in that giant uniform already catching the ball. Before even the regular season, he's already catching the ball. But yeah, he the notes on him was highly passionate and competitive, loves football, will train hard, plays with a big chip. And yeah, I mean, that's, again, from everything we've known of him now as a New York Giant now the last few months, it's pretty accurate. That's definitely pretty accurate there. We lost Rob. I wasn't sure if we lost Rob or he just kind of was sitting still there for a minute. He'll be back in a minute, I'm sure. But yeah, Daboll had said in the interview room before they talked to him, he said he's been watching tape all day of Nabers and that he was a baller. They mentioned briefly, a question that was a Nabers and then they kind of stopped themselves. So I don't know if they meant Jaden Daniels. I don't know if they meant Thomas. There's a couple other people, obviously, you can watch on the film of LSU games. But yeah, you could tell that Daboll was excited to have this process to talk to Nabers, get to know Nabers. They really kind of gave it the vibe of that this was the guy the Giants really wanted of these receivers. I don't know if that's because they didn't think they had a chance in hell of getting Harrison, or if they genuinely thought that Nabers was the best of this group. Some people did, so that's a possibility. We'll probably never know the answer to that, at least for a few years, until dust settles and everybody's retired and they talk about things after the fact, As far as the combine notes there, so Nabers comes in the interview. He's asked about how he deals with losing, and he says he hates losing more than winning. Now, that's a little cliche, but you could tell that he definitely meant that. You could tell that he's the kind of guy that if the Giants go on a losing streak, well, let's be honest, that's what they've done a decent amount of time here the last few years. I'm not saying he's going to be a distraction, but he's not going to stay quiet about it. He's not going to be a guy that's going to take losing without an issue. Like, I do think he's a guy who's going to be a little vocal about it. And whether it gets vocalized in a positive way that helps the team or a negative way, we're going to find out. It's hard to say. He only won really in college. LSU had a pretty good year last year, obviously. We don't have that experience to see as far as that. He's then asked about how he handles not being involved early in the game. And again, this is way I want to word this carefully, especially because this is the guy we took. I'm worried people are going to kind of take this the wrong way, but he definitely paused to think about his answer. Like, there's a technique that people do. I shouldn't even say technique. It's a reaction people do when they want to think about how they should word something. That they'll just repeat the question or start to repeat the question so they can mentally process what they should say before they actually say it. And it's something a lot of people do automatically. And I think that's what he did, because he started repeating the question. But then he says he handles it pretty tough. He admitted that point blank. I actually like that because I felt like it was honest that he's going to take it pretty tough. But it's also him kind of acknowledging that, hey, this is something I probably need to work on. And the Giants didn't seem to have issue. Daboll said it's fine with that because he wants dogs with that competitive juice. Like, he was okay with it. Like, this is a guy who wants to win. He wants to be part of why the team wins. And they seem okay with that, the Giants. They really did. They didn't seem to have an issue with that, which I don't think you should. Like, competitive guys are the guys who tend to do the best.
100%.
They drive themselves, and they're pissed off when they don't.
Competitive guys are going to be the ones that are going to put the extra work in to make sure that they're at the top tier of the talent where they got to be, or the physical attributes where they could be. They're going to make sure that they're the ones in shape. They're the ones that are going to put in the extra work and actually drive the guys around them to put extra work in. Like, it's not a bad thing. Yes. And just to piggyback off what you said, like, he did pause. He repeated himself. Like, some people, like we alluded to earlier, like, in sales, you repeat yourself when you're trying to stall for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, or just how to put it into one word. Some people just kind of hesitate, just kind of look to the left, look to the right, just kind of and just put it together. Like
to the left, to the left.
It's not necessarily like a bad thing how you're putting it together. It's like he's trying to process how to put his emotions and thoughts into a word.
But it makes you wonder, what would he have said if he didn't pause?
Yeah. I hate it.
Wonder, because that's what he said when he had more time. I would have liked to hear the gut reaction. I would have liked to hear the instantaneous. I would have loved to see that, but just not going to happen, obviously. And you know what? He shouldn't do that. He should think about it if he's going to say the wrong thing at that point. It's an interview. It's a job interview. That's what that is. So take it seriously for what it is, and he clearly did. If he didn't care about what people thought about him, if he didn't actually care about the answers he gave, didn't want to be a giant, he would have just said whatever the hell he wanted.
Yeah, and also at the end of the day, like let's look at what he puts on Twitter. I mean,
yeah,
granted, it's ways from this process here, but like,
well, this week is putting up strip clubs, but well, again, he's a kid being a kid, guys. Who cares?
Yeah.
Let him have fun. Let him have fun.
All I know is he doesn't like yachts.
Doesn't like yachts. No more boat trips for the receivers.
Yeah.
It was interesting because again, obviously we know Nabers is who the Giants picked, but there was a little discussion afterwards about Nabers, and he was the only one they really discussed after the interviews too much. They said that Nabers was actually reserved and less edgy than they expected. Brandon Brown talked, kind of showed a desire to get more info and spend more time with him. He said he gives us something we don't have. He says, you know, and that's, I think they understand the specialness of what Nabers has the potential to be. We've talked about this all, you know, leading up to the draft, all post-draft. Like, Nabers has the highest ceiling, in our opinion, of all the receivers that were in this draft. The safe pick was Marvin Harrison Jr. Make no mistake about it. But Nabers had the highest ceiling. So, you know, it's a boom or bust kind of pick potentially, because I think if he fails, he's going to explode a little bit personally. But I think if he succeeds, he's going to become a star in this league, and I honestly think that's what's going to happen. I really think this is a pick the Giants can look at in the future and go, we got this one right.
Yeah,
we got this one right. We'll see. I've been wrong before, and I'm not trying to say I'm 100%, but Brown did say also that a quarterback will have to deal with him, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, they're admitting like he's going to be potentially a little bit of someone you have to deal with, not like the guy who's the team guy who just does whatever you need him to do and that's it. You know, like, you know, not that he'll complain about the role, but he will complain if he's not utilized enough. We already know that. Then Shane says that Daboll loves him. Daboll's watched all the. Shane said, you know, that DJ's looked at all the film and stuff like that and loves him. So I thought that was kind of interesting. They threw that in there because they didn't say, hey, we've talked to some of the quarterbacks we're looking at this year, the draft and whatever, and they loved him. DJ is what they said. So makes you wonder how much they're actually looking at the quarterback, considering. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I mean, also, once again, this is an edited episode where they take into the best sounding clips for what's going to come up to this league and to this season. But it's the only time they talked about any player that on offense that DJ loves thus far.
Yes. And I think part of that probably is because all the rumors that Nabers wasn't really a fan of Jones, to be honest, based on some of the comments he made leading up to the draft and at that combine even. If I remember right, that was when he made the comments about, of course, the Giants want to get me the ball. Of course, I want to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, and that definitely gave us a little pause with him. But again, wasn't the end all. It was a, hey, I want to keep an eye on this guy and see what's going on. Is this a once-off mistake, or was it a cause for bigger alarm? And so far, it's been a once-off mistake.
Yeah. Listen, we all have friends out there that say dumb things here and there.
No.
I have a lot of those friends. I may be one of those friends. Drew also may be one of those friends.
I don't have any of those friends. But yeah,
people say things out of just excitement or just thrill and not meaning what they say. They're just kind of like, oh yeah, of course you want the best guy to throw me the ball because I'm the best guy out there. Not thinking about it. oh yeah, I may be drafted to this team that has a guy that's ranked in the top 20.
Maybe he should have paused and repeated the question before answering. The quote of the night.
I'll do that in the interview process.
The quote of the night was Brandon Brown talking about Nabers, and he said, "Name me a dominant player at that position that was a choir boy. Nabers gives us something we simply don't have."
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting. Like, I feel like the Giants are acknowledging that there may be some personality quirks to deal with, which is weird because it's being thrown out there publicly. We've now drafted him, and Nabers obviously is going to watch this as well, probably. So it's like Nabers understands the Giants are acknowledging he might be a personality issue at times. But it's interesting that like they're saying that, and they're not wrong. I mean, historically, wide receivers that are great, at least, are the biggest head cases you'll come across. The Randy Mosses, the T.O.s, you can even go to the 90s.
Quarterback.
Michael Irvin. Like there's, even look at some of the guys now, like Tyreek Hill. Would you really say he's the Boy Scout you want on your team?
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown. Well, Antonio Brown's probably a CTE case. Let's be honest here. Yeah. He didn't start off crazy. But how we know exactly. Mike Tomlin was very good.
I was about to say Pittsburgh could have a really good PR person.
The best coaching job that Mike Tomlin ever did. That's saying a lot. But yeah, I mean that's it. Like I said, it's kind of interesting there.
If you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.